How's everyone doing this morning?
Fantastic.
Excellent. Anyone not been in a class of mine? I need to introduce myself.
Who are you?
My name's Lincoln. I've been with Sustain for a little over 2 years now. See, I started out, I was originally working for Gwinnett County Clerk of Courts, started off doing reports, ended up doing everything from network admin to desktop support to writing interfaces, all kinds of happy stuff. So we're here to talk about systems integration. What is systems integration? Well, before we get there, here's our training topics. And my PowerPoint is not very detailed. Just what I'm going to do is show you some of the capabilities after we go through the PowerPoint. So what is systems integration? It's the process of linking together different computing systems, software applications, physically or functionally, to act as a coordinated whole. So basically, I've got this system here, I need data from over here, or I need, something happens in this system, I need to get that data. How do we get there? Well, eCourt is built as a case management system. In my eyes, it's a framework. There's a whole lot you can do and a whole lot of ways to skin this cat. If you've got a problem, more than likely we've got a way to get the data in and out. So one thing that's built into the system is the ability to consume web services. So we can go out there, create a SOAP request, hook up to the web service, pull the data down, whatever configuration it comes back in, parse it out, get it into the system, do whatever we need to do. SOAP, it's a protocol, web service protocol. It's a HTTP request. We can consume files. Now you've seen the workflow engine. You can have file triggers, so if a file drops in a certain location that eCourt has access to, it can consume that file. Or again, a timer trigger, every 30 minutes it goes out and looks for a file. There's a file there, pull it in, do what we need to do. It can be just about any kind of format. XML, parsing XML, text, CSVs, XLSs, not the new handy dandy XLS natively. And conversely, you can create files, whether it's a text file, a fixed string length, CSVs, some kind of random custom file that a certain interface might need. XML is really easy. I love doing the XML thing. So you have a file, say it's your DMV interface or DDS is they call it in Georgia. Every day you've got a trigger. I've got these records that say they need to be sent. Goes out, pulls those records, pulls the case data for each one of those records. One 550 space-filled specific. It'll create that record, move on to the next one, create that record, just keep on moving. You can also expose the eCourt API. The API actually has SOAP protocols, REST protocols, and they're working on NEAM protocols, as Kaushik said in the roadmap. And if you're worried about security, if you have a DMZ, for example, you can utilize, if you're on IIS, use ARR, which is
application request routing.
request routing. So basically, You can open up specific things in your firewall, take this ARR and have a redirect into your local environment from the outside. And there's others, depending on what you're running outside in your DMZ, if you have one. There are other products as well. Different ways to do it, if you're not running IIS. You can expose individual rules to the API. And when you're talking about, it is secured, so they have to log in with the username and password. And if you're doing individual rules, you can also set up in that rule, say, if that current user is not what you're expecting, don't return anything, those kind of things. FTP, there's support for FTP, SFTP, and FTPS. So you can go out, connect to an FTP, go through the files, okay, this is the one I need, pull it, delete from the FTP if necessary, close out, do what you need to do with the file. REST protocol is very powerful. If no one's ever dealt with the REST, in our roadmap, Kaushik was explaining that you could have your vendor or outside partner potentially use the REST. I'm just going to say I'm not a fan. I prefer to use the execute rule because you have more control of what they can do, what will come back, what will display versus some random giving them access to do these searches. So you can get to your REST schema with the question mark underscore WADL. You can see what's available there. Utilizing REST with Postman, we'll go through that. And with the REST protocol, you can get data, obviously, search for a particular thing, pull a particular entity. You can do a post, which will insert data. So you can insert an address, insert an entire case, if you get the structure. You can do a put, which is update. Update data, say I get this particular case and I want to change the case name. It's that simple. And you can also delete data. This is why I don't recommend you just give open access to anyone willy-nilly. So that's just your basic overview of what it can do. Like I said, there's 100 ways to do, well, not 100. There are multiple ways to accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish. So that being said, let's go into a few specifics. Most of you in here probably went to the business rules class. I'm going to talk about a couple advanced features of our business rules. Number one is the ability to reuse your rules. So if you've ever programmed anything, you know the function. Having a function, feed it certain parameters, you get an output. You can reuse it over and over and over again. Our rules have that same ability. So if you have an input, I need a case, I need whatever, you can feed it an output to use again somewhere else. Very handy. So I want to talk briefly about the Georgia State Patrol e-citation import. So what this does is it connects to a web service. I create this XML string. It connects to the web service, uses this string, and pulls back whatever data is fresh. So when this kicks off, it uses this shell. And right here, it's calling this other rule right there. And the result of that output is my data. Then for every record in that data, it will go validate that record, excuse me. It will add the case, and it will return charge data and add that as well. So the whole reusability and flexibility of our business rules, take advantage of it if you're writing advanced stuff. So just to give you an idea, and I'm going to do this. And this is not intended to be a business rules class. I just want to give you guys some advanced shows of what's going on. Okay, this is the shell. As I was showing you before, I have an input. Those are my inputs. This one's optional. Don't need it, can use it. It's there for, in this instance, I can run it from whatever date I want to. If it's blank, it'll go do its thing and pull the last thing it ran. There's some defaults. And there's also, well, these are fixed. So when you come up and run one of these rules, anything that's fixed, it comes from the context of this rule. It won't show up to get changed when you go to run it. And I'm also using system properties right here to store some things that, because these parameters right here are probably never going to change. But when it comes to things that may change periodically from time to time, I've got these system properties set up that they can go, let's say they move their servers and they want to store their files on a different location. They can go in here, change that path, and hit OK. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for maintaining. Now you can do it on a rule basis. You can put those parameters in every rule. Generally, I find, this is my preference, that if a login name is changed or a password is changed, they just come here instead of trying to find all the rules that it may be in. So going back here, this one has no output because this is the whole wrapper of everything that's going on. And this button right here, batch enable. This is a feature we put in a couple months ago, and I'll show you how that works. There's also this Boolean right here, API enable. So if I write a rule and I want to expose it to our web service, this is where you check that, and if they do the execute rule protocol, if this is not enabled, it's going to error out. If it is enabled, then they can execute that rule through the API.
Can it be changed after the fact?
Give me a scenario, what?
As in, creating the rule and then enable it
Correct.
to be compatible with the API.
It's real time. So I'll give you an instance where we have an outside vendor in Gwinnett, and they're gonna be going into Marietta as well. When it was time to do the upgrade, we had couple things to do, so we let the outside vendor know, uncheck the API enabled for all their rules, so they couldn't even get it. So then once the upgrade was done, go check the rules back, real time.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that. Is there a way we could limit them to, like maybe create a business rule, a time standard that would disable the API during a period of time? Like when we do our backups? We don't want anybody touching the database and so forth.
Hundreds of ways to skin the cat. Tens of ways to skin the cat.
I was just thinking if there was access to this API enabled to where we could, have something like that.
Absolutely, you could write a rule that fires every day and
Okay.
changes that Boolean, and then fires again 2 hours later and re-enables that Boolean.
Okay.
There again, I can get the context of the current user, and if it's not, I can store that one username, and if it's not that one username,
Right.
then it doesn't allow them to go forward. So right here, we're sending our SOAP string, our SOAP request, bringing back the data, throwing it in a couple tables somewhere so we know what's going on. And there again, I have my system properties for the password, agency ID, where it goes to connect, because at some point they may change their URL. And where I'm storing my incoming files. And it returns a result. The validate functionality says, okay, does this have the correct jurisdiction? Has the ticket been voided? Does it have a charge date? Goes through all the things that may or may not be good for that particular citation. And it feeds feedback, whether it's valid or not. And it returns. And so every charge that goes through, every chunk of data that comes through, runs through this one rule, feeds it data, and then says, yes, it's good, no, it's not, and here's why. Then we're going to add the case, and we're going to add the charge as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How is, because the person source data is coming via the e-citation, how is person matching launched within eCourt? Or is it?
It is.
It is. Is that part of what is established in this
That's
setup?
that's part of the validation.
Oh, okay.
So I can, and it's took me a little bit to figure out. Okay, so I'm going to look for an existing open case with the same charge date time, so their incidents are together. Find the officer, try to find that officer in the directory.
Okay.
Then I go to find my
Okay.
case person, then I go to find my defendant's other cases. So to match these up, our criteria are if they have a driver's license state, they have a date of birth, and they have a driver's license number, then I'll go try to find that person in the database. I match up their driver's license number, their date of birth, and the driver's license state,
Okay.
same person.
Okay.
Making sense?
It does, totally.
So right here, I'm just saying, I've got no cases right now that have been filed today. So when we were talking about the batch run checkbox, we've got this interface right here. that if it's a batch run, you can pull this. And there's my optional, and I'm just gonna set it for today. We'll see whether anything comes back or not, because I ran it the other day.
How'd you get the batches again?
That's one of the, how'd I get to this screen?
Yeah, how did you get up to that screen?
I have it set up down here
Okay,
as part of my navigation.
okay. All right.
And this is gonna take potentially a few minutes to run. So the first thing it's gonna do is go out, connect to Georgia AOC, connect to their web service, figure out whether there's anything new from midnight today. And it should start chugging along if there's any records to be returned. Look at that. So, and when we're talking about advanced business rules, you can run processes multi-threaded, but in this particular instance, since we're dealing with individual tickets, say I'm creating a case here, and another thread's creating a case here, but they might be the same person with the same incident, so you want to run in serial. You don't want to run parallel. So we can actually go in here and just click open a case. So this whole process, like I said, is one of my favorite things. So in theory, right now, I've got a case with all of its charges, not touched by anybody. So everything is just lovely. Okay? So, and you've seen the workflow configuration where you have the manual workflows and you can say person A, person B, this role, that role will get assigned these manual queues. This is my login, and I deliberately take myself out of all the assignments because I don't want to see them when I log in. So I come over here to the workflow monitor and see what is happening. We can go see what is impacted by this import. So I'm going to look for my manual workflows for today. Right now I have 24 ticket pendings because the GSP citation doesn't bring over a PDF, doesn't bring over any kind of file to associate with it. So they're waiting on a ticket. And they've got 6 of them that the statute section number is invalid. What this is, if I go open this case,
The case was created anyway.
case is created, but we've got an unknown statute not in table. So we've got a manual queue that says I've got to correct these 6, 12, 200 statutes that I couldn't find. So
Would that be the same if, for example, the officer would not have been found? Let's say the police department or the agency in Georgia hired a new officer.
there's also a manual workflow that's not dependent on this process necessarily, but when a case assignment is entered in and it's not matched up, then there is a manual workflow that goes out to certain people, says, someone added this person, do they need to go in the directory? If so, put them in and try to find them again and match them up.
Okay.
You call in the add method in there, so if the statute didn't exist, you could simply just not add the case if you didn't want to add cases where the statute didn't exist.
You could do that. This is the particular spec for,
No, I know, I'm just saying if you wanted something like that, where if there was required fields, then you could simply just not add, bypass the record.
that is correct. You could change the validation, the O2 validate rule, and say it's not good, and then store that error, and when it's done, they'll know what's up.
I think the common practice across the country is adding a statute in the statute table called unknown. Because of the type of the case it is, it's an offense-based type case.
Correct.
That it's requiring, like it's got the asterisk there, it's requiring a
Yes.
statute.
In this case, we used XXX because they already had an unknown that they did not want to, they were using for a different
Right,
purpose.
right. Some type of a statute that references that it's unknown. Okay.
Okay. So, while this is running, I am going to pull up Postman, if I can remember how to do it. There it is. Okay, here's an example of using the API to execute a rule. So Postman is available through Google, obviously. Right here I'm using my credentials. And so I just requested the API version. It tells me it's version 66. Okay, using this is one of the payment portal searches. So obviously you've got input parameters. So this person's last name. I just want to make sure this is correct. And their ticket number. In this case, you can see right here, I've got XML out, and there are no search results.
I think you put the first and last in the last name,
Yeah.
so that's probably why you got nothing back.
That was one field.
It was one field.
That was one field.
Okay.
But I think it's also a business.
And this rule is actually a like.
Wow.
And again, I get no results. And there's a reason why. Because for eCourt, for the recorder's court, they say if they have a pending statute, an unknown statute, a whatever, they're not going to show those results because they're not payable at this point. They have no idea what it is. So if we go back to, this one's online payable, I believe. No, it is not. That's mandatory. We'll find one that's not a mandatory variance. And unfortunately, I don't think I have this criteria in there. No, I do not. Okay, here we go. 5,800. At this point, we have this nice little XML that the vendor goes, parses out that result and says, okay, and displays it to the customer. So they know that they need to pay $180. So I could go to my eCourt payment right here, and once they know it's online payable, they know how much they're supposed to pay. So they execute this rule. And there again, I couldn't pay it because 180 does not equal 250, what they just sent. There's validations within that that said, hold up, I can't do it. Just not going to happen. So just to give you an idea of what's going on in this case. So audit records will show everything that went on. I'm running this rule manually. Added some workflow, scheduled the event, added the time standard, must pay or appear. So if I go in here and put in my 180, invoice paid, invoice balance,
All right.
and my receipt number right there. So if I come over here and I refresh this, see it turned from yellow to red, which means it's closed. And evidently I was signed in as eCourt web service when I did that call. You can see that they disposed the charge, paid it off, closed the case. Everything is just lovely in our world. The point of that is, not one person had to touch that case, and it's done. Got our money, we got whatever.
I always have questions, sorry. What is the process for when the court receives the e-citation, the image, the citation itself? Is it scanned and then attached, or what is their business process, I guess, in Georgia? Since it's an e-ticket, and you had that record of so many, the new cases that were created and we're waiting for the citation.
It's up to them.
Okay. So is the court expecting to actually see the e-citation? I don't know, does Georgia have the handhelds where they?
They do not, as far as I know. They get the originals every day, every other day.
Okay,
And what they do is they have a search in here that they can go mass update, yes, I received this ticket, so they know, A, that they can go to court if someone shows up at the window and says, you know, I don't have a date till next month, but I'm here now, can I go to court? Since it's yellow, they say, no, you can't because we don't have the ticket.
okay,
We're still waiting on the original.
okay,
Then they go update that. They could scan it, they could do whatever.
okay, okay,
That's kind of up to the court.
okay.
Once you get past this point, what they do on their end, you know, So my point in this whole thing is very flexible. You can control what's in there, what's out there, how it's done. Obviously, you need a good spec and someone who knows how to write business rules in order to put all this happy stuff together. But a lot of things are doable. I'm not gonna say everything. That's just, yeah. Still running. Still running. And there at the end. Had 130 records. Now, if there were any errors, I'd also say, got an error here, got an error there. My point here is you can send emails and figure out the appropriate people, what's going on. At certain points during this, they had instances where they weren't getting data from the AOC. So every morning it would run, and they'd have no records return, no records return, no records return. So they'd get a hold of the AOC and say, what's up? Well, yeah, we got an issue. So, and then once they got data, smart enough to know, go back to the last one we had and run from there. So let's talk about REST for a minute.
Hey, just real quick, when you ran the batches on that window right there, safe to say, even if you close out the window, the batch is still running, right? Backup.
Correct. It's internet. Once that bullet goes downrange, you can't pull it back. Okay, so let's go to REST. So when you're doing REST, there's a few methods that are there by design. Execute rule request, store file, and a few other things. Plenty of things you can do with it, but what we're going to concentrate on is search. And obviously I've tested this at a couple points. There again. So what this returns is your basic collection type map from the REST. It's actually in JSON, JSON, and you can parse it, whatever. I know we have clients out there that have run their own websites as far as public facing, have searches, have limited capabilities on it. And if you have one of those type of environments, this is the methodology I would probably use behind all your calls if you're creating your own searches and those kind of things and displaying data to the public. So if you're writing this, you can control how it's displayed, what's displayed, whatever.
Is there paging built in, or we have to build the paging in ourselves?
You'd have to pay. This is strictly just pulling data back.
Build data back.
So if you had a criteria for defendant name or case number or case jurisdiction, whatever, you build this and you limit your own results, so you're only getting this many results instead of that many results. Or alternatively, you could build something like the business rule where you return the results and parse them out.
Are all the business rules limited, since, you know, the searches themselves are limited to 1,000 in the application? Is that the same with the rest?
I believe it is. I can't say 100%. But I'm pretty sure we could go blow it up if you want, but.
Let's do it.
Excuse me.
I like blowing things up.
So if you wanted to search for a case with any case number that the person's last name started with FLAHI and they were defendant, that's the way you would do that.
You got two back.
So the little schwa character here, I don't know what it's technically called. Tilde, thank you. That's your like. And the %25 is your escape for percent signs. So in this case, I like case number, whatever. But I could do, instead of begins with, contains, and it's going to take a little while longer to come back. So whatever your criteria are, more than likely you can get there through REST. So it's a very powerful portion of the API. Let me see. What else we got?
Here's an interesting note, we just talk about this. You might be thinking, it may not have, or might not be thinking about it yet, but security probably should be going through your head at some point saying, what can they get access to? So if I got a case that's sealed, and I make a REST call right, your security is going to be applied, so you're not going to get that data back. So you got access to it, but within the security model imposed to the UI still, so you can't circumvent anything.
So what matters is that username and password that was running.
Right, that's
Mhm.
right.
So it runs under the privileges of the login,
Yeah,
which is
correct.
exactly what you want.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, since I'm logged in,
So if you had a public website, you could create a specific login that represents the privileges that this website is supposed to reveal to the public.
Yep.
correct.
And then you have that user that you can put all the security around it you need.
Yep.
So, yes, it should work that way. So this is an RC clerk.
Always scan this section.
Yeah. Public.
That's all right, I'll change this back when it's done. Okay, sessions. Now if I sign in with AW.
Oh, they didn't display it. Why is it downloaded?
Getting into uncharted territory for me.
There you go.
Control Shift
Oh,
W.
it's that.
Access denied, access denied, access denied, access denied.
Which is exactly what you get from the UI. So you just see opens the same case as that user, he's gonna see the screen, but if you can even see the screen, but
Correct.
That's not the same case.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course.
Having a fun session.
Now I can see data.
Are all entities in the system available through the API? I mean, obviously within the
Case
limits of the
components.
All case components, okay.
Case components I know for sure. Whether all of them are,
Well, you said
It's
you
on
can,
the
you
metadata.
execute business rules, so if you can execute business rules, then you're.
More than
you have
likely, they're all-
security
Oh,
Set up to where that person accessing it has access to that entity. It's-
more than likely, I'm gonna say they're all available.
Right.
No, that didn't find anything.
Might need to be proper case too.
Might be a little tricky.
Okay. That's a custom entity, so it might not be aware.
Also, it might not do custom entities.
Potentially not.
Check the metadata page. I think there might be a checkbox there.
Or really, so there's a checkbox for whether or not it's accessible to the entity.
I think so.
I thought that was the rule. The rules exposed to the API, not the entity.
But REST is different.
Yeah.
But when you're doing your searches,
Oh,
doing your individual calls, so this search get or your post, those are not restricted to rules. Those are
Oh, okay.
pure query strings into your entities. And there again, they're instructions, I should say. Is put, post, delete. They're instructions. Delete this entity. Add this entity. Add this entity and its children entities with these data fields. So that's why I'm not a big fan of allowing your vendors / partners to have open access to this, because. So what was the question? Oh,
Well, we were wondering if,
All entities were accessible through the
what if
rules.
it was just a subset.
I don't know the answer to that question. It might be just your case components. Can't answer that question. that would be something that would need to be played with.
One thing we've talked about is the potential to basically create custom in-house tools to help with sort of automated form generation that's more algorithmic instead of point and click. And we were wondering if we could use the REST API, but that's an advanced conversation, not for this classroom. Right?
Okay.
Let's do that right now.
Yeah. So at this point, without actually building something on the fly, what specific questions you guys have? Do you all have interfaces, certain issues that need to be tackled, and is it doable? How could it be doable? Those kind of things?
Actually, for our court, which we're on Justice Edition, but what you just showed us on the Georgia Patrol citation, we're already running it's called eNet Pay, but because we're at the tech center in California, it's more of it's a manual process. Once they enter the information, it goes to VeriSign. But they get into the website, enter the information. We've created the page to gather that information, it's then sent to VeriSign. Then we get that information, that transaction information every day. Accounting will then go and reconcile them. But it shows me that everything we're doing now would plug right in, per se.
With some changes,
Yes, yeah,
obviously.
definitely. Because they arrive at our website, and when they get to the page that they're gonna enter their credit card number and stuff, they're not at our website. It appears they are, but they're at VeriSign.
Mhm.
We don't store the data. So they make the payment, we get a confirming email sent to them and to the court, and then accounting reconciles that afternoon or the next day. So yeah, for us, this is awesome.
It's basically the same basic setup.
Well, it's a movement.
But you guys have a workflow that's gonna basically pull that, I guess you're getting a file back from VeriSign saying these are the cases that were paid successfully, because you might enter a credit card, it might be denied because the card was
Correct.
reported stolen, so that one might fall to a queue that says, payment not successful.
Yeah, they actually,
Whatever.
they run a report that says, give us all the bad
Yep.
transactions.
So then you got workflow that's gonna be, routing based on the success or failure of that payment, and then if it's successful, and you guys say, let's go ahead and automatically create this thing, and automatically create it, you're done.
Yes, that's why this looks really slick.
This is, for me, a lot of fun to work on. For a lot of things. Sometimes, not so much. But I can show you an example of like the DDS file if you want. It's basically going through every case and pulling the data, plugging it into a file, and dropping it in the FTP. That functionality is all there. Interacting with our web service, interacting with other web services, all that functionality is there. And we also have the portal that's running right now in Oregon, Placer, Tulare, Sonoma. And it's our portal, and that's tied into a payment gateway. Is that the correct term?
Yes, so where you're using VeriSign, we have, Placer uses HP Gateway, Tulare uses Authorize.net, so just as you're speaking about, don't capture the payment information inside eCourt, you're doing that from the outside into the user, it's seamless, that they're on their site.
So the portal is available. It also has different functions such as e-filing, certain functions as well. And that's another thing, is on your searches, you can make those available to the API as well, and that mainly for the portal functions. Say I have a search or a form of any kind that I've configured in here, and I make that change, and it's going to be available to the portal immediately, real time.
Yeah, so you might want to, you can always create daily calendars, whatever, make it API enabled and publish that to the site easily.
Yeah, actually, that's what we're doing. We've got our program and have created some apps that pull our calendar information using Crystal reports, modified Crystal reports, and then those get posted. It's a manual deal right now because we're at the tech center.
Right.
It's really tough to get any kind of API work going with them, not because of sustain, or, and
Security
because of the
layers, gotta go through.
CCTC's security layers. And so it's been a chore and a challenge, but we post our calendars, but it's something we have to run every day, 3 times a day, but it's current, so, you know, but that's the only way we can do it because we're posted, which we're gonna move away from.
From what I understand, yeah. I hear it's cost prohibitive.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
So can you post or have Crystal reports run from the portal? We were told we could run searches, but we've never been able to put reports up to the portal to have them run formatted reports. So now our customers just run searches, but they have to format and do that all themselves.
So to this point, anything I've worked on with the portal has been searches. So you're configuring your search in eCourt, making it
Yeah.
API enabled, and then publishing the data, and then you're right. If they
Yeah.
wanted to format it, that would be post. I don't know how we would put Crystal reports out on.
I don't know if we have that functionality
Yeah.
in the portal.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
either. Maybe we can check on that, but.
Can you post already ran reports, like someone was saying that if we run a report, you know, daily, can we post out somewhere? Can you have a link to it, or?
That I don't see why not, right? I mean, why not just generate
I think we
As
have
long
to-
as you can
access
access.
report as a PDF or something like that, drop it to a
Well,
location? and then-
In the reports, you have the ability to schedule reports that'll automatically archive that report. I'm sure, but there again, whether that functionality exists currently in the portal or whether that is an enhancement, that might have to be done.
I can
I-
check on that and get back to you. I have a call with the portal developer today, so I'll see what he has to say about that.
Right, because you want to actually display it in the portal, not
Yeah, so they
necessarily
can
in
get a
third party.
formatted report, because some of them don't like their searches, they want them a certain, to look a certain way.
Yep.
Currently, we're still running and emailing them, so
Right.
if they could just go get it themselves, that we work in the state. And it's a directory entry, so if we got that sheet, could we write through business rules, have it automatically update?
Sure.
You know, all the ones that have been activated, we inactivate.
If
The ones
that's,
we add a new record, we just do it all just from the Excel document itself, not having to, you know, download something and do a comparison. It could just be all done through business rules.
more than likely, yes.
Yeah, because you've already got that section there where you're doing a directory lookup to see, is this person in there or not, so.
Yeah, and it
It's
would
like
be
a
the
police
same.
officer.
Adding that through a business rule is relatively easy.
Yeah. So we get it like quarterly or semi.
I mean, is this a file, is it a?
It's an Excel file that we currently get from them.
So you could drop it
Just a
in
flat file.
location,
Yeah,
and yeah, that would
it really
be,
only has like 4 fields.
that would be,
It's really simple.
that would be
Nice.
doable,
Plug it all in.
I would think, yes. There again, that's one of those where you'd have a file trigger on workflow, once that goes in there, or not even have the workflow set up, just have the batch say, I got one, here it is.
Just do it seamlessly.
Right.
We've done a bunch that are scheduled, looking at the directory, see the file, and forget it.
Notify you when it's coming. You're not, maybe just real time when it comes, you just get an email after you're saying, oh, wow, we got 5 updates yesterday, here they are.
What other real world scenarios that you might need questions on, might have questions on? Nothing?
You always have questions.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else as far as the presentation goes. If we want to talk one-on-one or about interfaces, API, or anything else, we're available.
Well, I have a question that pertains to this.
What's that, not pertaining to this?
Yeah. So I wait till after class to ask.
Okay. All right, thank you.
For who?